The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Huh. That was different.
I'd ask the clerk to do the roll call, please.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Weil?
Here.
Mr. McGowan? Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Ms. Seaver? Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Scheffler?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Thomas?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to extend the privilege of the floor to our to Congresswoman Stefanik, and welcome her here this morning. And I'm glad that she had time to join us. And how's everything going?
Thank you, Chairman Thomas, and it's great to see everyone. I've spoken with many of you. Jean Merlino and I had a good catch-up yesterday, so I know we've been in close contact with all of the towns and municipalities in Warren County throughout this crisis. I wanted to give a brief update. Over the next few weeks, we are finalizing a package, and I anticipate that will include the direct state and local aid, which is so incredibly important for Warren County, but really for every county across my district. In addition, we will be focusing on direct aid to school districts, which is incredibly important as they ramp up their reopening plans. And we've been working closely with superintendents across the district to ensure the safety as well as the learning opportunities for our kids, with an understanding that we need to continue serving every student, those with special needs and disabilities as well, who have been extraordinarily challenged during this crisis. In addition, we will be looking at additional support for the Paycheck Protection Program. That's been incredibly important for small businesses across the district and really across the country. Many of our businesses locally have benefited from that important program, and most importantly, it's the workers. So it's about keeping people back to work. One of the challenges that I've heard from many of you is the additional $600 of the federal pandemic unemployment insurance that's funded by the federal government. I believe that that was important during this crisis for people who were out of work for no fault of their own. However, as we are reopening back up, a challenge that is consistent, particularly in Warren County with a lot of seasonal work, is small businesses are having real difficulty in hiring people back and competing with that additional $600 of pandemic federal unemployment insurance. Right now, current law that expires in the month of July. The bill that Speaker Pelosi passed on a very partisan basis extends that through January of 2021. I believe that we need to let that expire or phase that out to ensure that the incentive is getting folks back to work. And there are some concepts of back to work bonuses that are being discussed. In addition, liability reform is also important. I communicated with Ed Bartholomew and Michael Biddle and many of our county officials yesterday. I know that's a top priority to ensure that we have liability protections, not just for businesses, but for nonprofits, for our schools, as they are making sure that they are prioritizing public health, but they are not therefore they're protected from really unnecessary lawsuits and costs in the long term, because I do think our business and local organizations have really been putting forward their best foot in terms of investing and updating their operations to ensure the safety, security, and health of their workers as well as their customers. In terms of the timing, which I know is important, we are going into session next week and the week after. That may extend into the first week of August, but we're looking at this package in the next 3 weeks. And I'll continue keeping up to date with our county officials. And thanks for the opportunity, Chairman Thomas.
Thank you. Are there any questions from anyone for the Congresswoman? Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman and Congresswoman Elise. I just have one question. I brought this up a while ago with the unemployment coming forward, and I knew this was going to be a problem because I really, being self-employed for, almost 38 years of my life, unemployment has never been a thing on my factor. I just get up and go to work, but I understand due to the circumstances. I'm really against extending anything, and I think the end of July is too far, especially with everything trying to open up. And I know you're doing everything you can. I have talked to Liza over this too, and some of my concerns. And I wish that the government would have said, "Oh, all right, so you make $500 a week. Unemployment for New York is $325. The government would make up that $175, you know what I'm saying, to make it a $500. And that would have kept everything on. But to give them more money, a lot of people saying, geez, I mean, I know people that were part-time are bringing home, 8 times as much money as they were. Why would they want to go back to work? So if anything, if not extending it for the people that really can't go back to work, if we could go to that style, it's like, all right, whatever New York state pays in unemployment, the government will make up the difference. That way, maybe the government can save a few bucks. And it's not taking the incentive out of the people going back to work.
Right. That is one of the ideas that's under consideration, is to capping that additional federal unemployment piece at whatever your previous income level was. That is a concept that may very well where the bill ends up in negotiation, because again, this is going to be a bipartisan bill. It has to pass the House and the Senate and be signed into law. So certainly that's under consideration. What I know is not workable for this community and this district is the extension to January, as we are trying to get people back to work. So current law, as you know, it expires in July, but we're looking at that option of what that compromise might be.
Well, thank you very much for your time and joining us this morning. It's so good to see you. And keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Questions from anyone else? Okay. I'd like to thank you very much for joining our meeting this morning, and you're always welcome. And I wish you luck in the next 3 weeks with success to your agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Okay, next I'm going to extend privilege of the floor to Assemblyman Daniel Steck. Dan?
All right. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Elise, good to see you on the call. Thanks for that update. I'll lead with just my transition to remarks on what Elise is working on, and I'm encouraged by the 3-week time frame, because a lot of what's going on in the state and certainly is going to impact the counties and the schools is going to hinge on what comes out of Washington as far as funding levels. The governor and his staff has the authority to make cuts to local aid and to state aid for schools. And everyone's been sitting on pins and needles since May, not sure what that cut was going to be. And now here we are, July. So it's been 2 months. We've had all the schools vote on a budget that everyone knows wasn't a real budget, because we really don't know what school aid's going to be. So that's one of the most important things that's floating around out there, is what's going to happen with that federal legislation. With that said, just by way of an update briefly since last month, businesses and what is and isn't open, what can and can't be open, what are the rules and the moving goalposts. And now we've gotten more granular, where before, a month ago, we were talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Now we're phase 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, and that frustrates a lot of people, a lot of business owners out there as well. So that's dominated a lot of our work in the district office. This week, we had a whole range of committee meetings in the Assembly in preparation for next week's session. So we will be in session Monday through Thursday next week. The lion's share of what we had committee meetings on for legislation this week was routine, typical end of session kind of legislation. So we did not see any significant earth-shattering, game-changing legislation. Certainly not in my committees, and I'm not aware of any others as well. But with that said, it's Friday afternoon, and we've got session coming next week. So who knows what might sprout up in the next 12 or 48 hours that we may be dealing with next week. But it looks like we just have a full docket of routine end of session kinds of bills. The word is that next week is it, but with the big caveat that because of the pandemic and everything else that's going on, we could always go back at any other time. But historically, we would have been done the last week in June. So next week is probably the last bite at the apple for most legislation, unless it is very specific and very urgent and likely not local, likely something truly significant. So with that said, it's just it's been the slog for everybody, and I again want to thank all of you for all your work. I've talked with a lot of you over the last month since our last Zoom call together, and I know that you guys are doing the best you can, and I know that your constituents all appreciate it, as do I. So, if there's any questions, Chairman, thank you.
Any questions from anyone? I don't see any.
All right. I'm going to jump to the Washington County call now.
Okay.
Anyways, everyone have a nice weekend. Be safe. Good to see you yesterday, Dan Bruno.
Take care. Thank you.
Yep, thanks all.
Thank you.
Yes, Supervisor Simpson.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something before our Congresswoman got off. She also was able to deliver that additional money to our hospital, which was really something that
Yes.
We really needed. So I wish I'd been able to thank her.
Has the senator ever contacted us?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 19th, 2020 board meeting, and subject to correction by the clerk. Moved by Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Kessler. Somebody has something they want to add? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item is a report by the chairman. As everyone knows, COVID's still alive and well, and we're at the point we did dip to zero for a while, and now we've had a little spike in cases, and we have to remain vigilant. I ask our residents to remain vigilant. I know the masks are not the most pleasant thing to wear in the world, and but we need to abide by that. We have to wash our hands, observe social distancing. We need to minimize the infections as much as we can, not only in Warren County, but in the capital region.
Hey, what's up?
Hello?
Brian.
We don't want to slip backwards because this would be devastating to our businesses. In fact, it would probably put a lot of people out of business. I again would like to compliment our public health department. They do a tremendous job. I don't know how you say thank you enough to them. You know, the governor declares all these states as dangerous states. That puts a huge amount of work onto our public health department and all county public health departments. Currently, they're keeping track of 69 travelers, you know, tracing out travelers. That's a huge amount of work for our public health department, and they're up to the challenge, and they do it. And I can't thank them enough. They do an excellent job. Committee meetings. I attended the ones on June 22nd and 23rd. I caught part of the inter-county meeting on June 25th. Also attended the weekly Economic Recovery Task Force meeting that day. The next day was a COVID Task Force meeting, talking about supplies and reopening of the county facility, bringing our employees back, which I believe, I don't know if we're 100%, but we're pretty close. It's good to see everybody here, at least on the dais here. Hopefully we'll get the boardroom so everybody can get back to here at some point. On the 30th, June 30th, I attended the department head meeting, again about reopening. On July 1st, there was personnel and finance and also the SUNY proposed budget for 2021, which is in your packet. I've sat in on the Capital Region Control Room phone calls. I think I've missed a couple of them, but for the most part, it was every day, but now it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on the 15th, I was here for the occupancy tax meeting. I co-signed a letter along with Chairman Hall from Washington County and Michael Biddle from the Regional Chamber of Commerce requesting summer youth employment program funds, which have been released. And Liza is working on getting the program up and running, and it's doing very good. I also, as requested, sent a letter to Senate Majority Leader Cousins requesting dormitory funds. And lastly, I co-signed a letter that the Local Government Review Board Executive Chairman, Executive Director composed relating to an incident that happened in Reenact Lake with some racial epithets. I signed on to that. And with that, that's my report. I'm being told to remind supervisors to speak into their microphones. Okay, the next item is a report by committee chairman on the past month's meetings or activities. Supervisor Garrity.
Yeah, budget. We started meetings with, we had our first meeting with self-insurance. I'm pleased to announce that we should see a reduction in the self-insurance, which is the workers' comp policy, and all the towns and the departments in Warren County should probably see a reduction in their comp costs for next year in most cases. The budget committee meetings will crank up at the end of July, and we'll be going right through. And I do plan on having a budget meeting at the proper time. We just got to set a time and get the information assembled for that. That's my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on June 23rd.
represented in your packet by resolutions 237 through 244. I think they're all fairly straightforward. 239 is an amendment to a professional service contract for Clark Patterson Lee for consulting services in the amount of $9,162. There's two minor land acquisition resolutions that deal with right-of-way, a bridge replacement on Horicon Avenue. And we have some item bids for our Public Works Department. These are unit bids that we use should we need them. One for asbestos removal, that's resolution 242, and the other is for aggregate. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public safety met on June 22nd and July 15th. Before you are three resolutions, number 236, 237, and 255. I'll ask to withdraw 237 when appropriate. 236 is for a contract for the Sheriff's Office for the septic lift station and Muffin Monster maintenance and repair contract. 255 is permission for Office of Emergency Services to submit a grant to the New York State Division of Homeland Security. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No committee reports today.
Thank you. Supervisor McDavid.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of very quick things. It's kind of very serious time in terms of pandemic. It's being head of a couple of committees that handle public health. It's just to have Ryan and Janelle in the middle of it. It just it's so helpful, and it just is great to have those people around. Just one item in terms of any importance in terms of LDC. We did ultimately ink the helmet manufacturers in Queensberry, so that money has been secured for them, and that's probably 8 to 9 jobs this year, and double that by the end of next year. So reasonable success story and an organization that has some unique growth opportunities for our area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairman. The Real Property Committee had the last chance meeting on Monday for the properties that are in the county tax foreclosure process. And we had 2 people whose applications were presented to us. And both of those people, landowners, were given extensions to bring their tax agreements into compliance. So that was good for those 2 property owners. I want to thank our Real Property Director, Lexi Delory, for all the work that she has done in the last several weeks to contact landowners and make sure that they knew about the change to the last chance meeting being moved from August to July. And she's also continuing to work with them now to make sure that everyone is up to speed who can be, as well as the treasurer is giving people extensions until the end of July pursuant to our procedure. So that's going along nicely. And we have about an average amount of properties in the foreclosure this year. So we're not seeing any excess properties being put into the foreclosure. And we heard a report from the county attorney's office about the foreclosure process being on hold, basically. So we may not be able to do the auction at the normal time that we normally do in the fall. But I will certainly keep everyone updated as we get more information about the court proceeding there. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no committee reports at this time.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. The Human Services Committee met on June 22nd. From that,
came two resolutions. Resolution 234, which is a continuation of an agreement at Countryside for the management of fire and security systems. I would encourage people to support that. The second resolution, I will ask at the appropriate time that 235 be withdrawn. It's no longer necessary to engage in that communications. The Human Services Committee will next meet on Monday, this coming Monday, July 20th, on or about 10:45 a.m. following the Health Services Committee. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on July 1st. As a result of that, we have resolution number 225 to 226 and 247 through 252. And I would like to just make note of 251 that we're authorizing construction of a radio communications tower and support facility in Stony Creek. I think we've been waiting apparently a long time for that. And then on 252, it's to approve the tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 for Adirondack Community College and provide for public hearing. So I really appreciate your support on all of those. And I'm not sure, is Treasurer Swan here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Swan, do you have a report?
Well, not so much a report, just kind of an update on where we're at. And unfortunately, it's not good news. As you've seen by the reports we put out, sales tax is down, occupancy tax is down, and now we're starting to see where there's some cuts coming through from the state and the federal government. So we've got to basically just sit back and evaluate everything. Some of the cuts that I've seen that are coming through won't have a budget effect on us because it's money that just won't be spent. It'll have an effect on the service end because things won't be done, like the mental health. Some of that money just won't be spent. So it won't come out of our budget, but that's not good for the people at the other end of it. I would suggest that we wait till about September to see where everything shakes out. That'll give us a good idea where our sales tax is. And at that point, I think then we need to seriously sit down and figure out whether we need to do some austerity budget things or whatever else needs to be done going towards the end of the year. And by that time, hopefully the 2021 budget will have a good idea of where that's going to go to. Any questions?
Yes, Supervisor Beatty looks like has his hand up.
Thank you. Hey, Mike, what cuts specifically are coming from the federal government? I know the state's kind of giving us the short end of the stick on a number of projects and issues. What is the federal government cutting us on?
Well, we don't have a specific on the federal government because what's happened is the federal government cuts some spending to the state and then the state kicks that back down to the local level. So we don't have specifically anything from the federal government yet.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Treasurer. Thank you, Edna.
Welcome.
Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Committee did meet on July 1st. We had two resolutions, 245 and 246. 246 is a resolution rescinding a resolution from 2019. It was an agreement with Cornell Cooperative Extension for the youth camping program at Sky Farm Camp, which, you know, we obviously with the pandemic, we're not going to be able to continue with that. The other thing, I know that everybody received this letter on the board from Peggy Stevens up at Countryside, and it's really an incredible testament to the people there and Director Amy Byrne. I know when Amy came on, we were working through the grant process for, you know, planning on rehabilitating that, and I've been really impressed with her. And we spent some time up there. All of those, all the people up at Countryside are just amazing people, and it's really humbling to receive a letter like this, an exit letter from one of our employees talking about the other employees that she worked with. So that's a good thing, and I'm really proud that we have continued to maintain Countryside. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, for bringing that up. That's very good. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I echoing? Is it okay?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Cornell Cooperative Extension had kind of a rough month. They had to make the very hard decision to go to a virtual format for the youth fair, which happens in the beginning of August. I want to thank everybody who stood by as they tried to figure out how to make that happen as a live event and supported Cornell Cooperative Extension with their belief that they could pull it off safely. Unfortunately, all fairs were canceled across the state. So they will do a virtual event, and I will be sending you a link to that when it's happening. They're looking at some fun ways to engage the kids still. The campership that Matt referred to was a heartbreak. So over 100 youth won't have the opportunity to experience their week-long stay at Sky Farm this year. But looking to the bright side, Sky Farm's been working very hard on their property and upgrades and building new cabins for next season. So we'll look forward to continuing that program next year. There's a new initiative at CCE called the Big Red Veggie Shed. They have, for the past 5 years, CCE has grown and donated produce to local food banks. This year, in addition to doing the donations, they're going to sell some of the produce to benefit not-for-profits. So if you're in the Warrensburg area, stop by and stock up. Wild Edibles is a new initiative being put on through CCE. It's a 3-part Zoom presentation. It's been extremely popular this year. You can find it on their website. There are plans for the 11th annual golf tournament still happening at this point in time on August 22nd at Cronin's. So be sure to get your team together and look forward to a fun afternoon. And finally, they are putting on a series of cooking parties in real time using Zoom in August. There will be salsa making, prepare refrigerator dill pickles, and more. So again, go to the CCE website often and check up for updates and fun things that are happening. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Senator Betty Little has joined our meeting, and I would like to extend privilege of the floor to the senator. Morning, Senator.
Good morning. Really happy to be able to join you. Sorry that I'm late, and then we had a little difficulty in getting on. I didn't have quite the right numbers, but anyway, we're on. So I just want to begin by thanking all of you for what you have done through this pandemic and what you continue to do, the information that you provide to the people here. And I don't know about you, but I think this is a really, really stressful time. And it is even getting more stressful as it continues. I keep waiting for the day we wake up and say this is over and we're back to a new normal, but at least a normal. And there's just so much fear and so many businesses being hurt. I mean, if you're operating at 50% capacity, you're not making what you were making, and your income is going to be less. So many businesses not being able to operate full, and also trying to, really make it more equitable so that people that are on in one place that are able to operate, that other people that are very, very similar, but for some reason aren't able to operate, that they can operate. So I want to thank Ryan too for what he's done and all the information he has provided in representing us on the control room, and I'll just continue to work at it. And every day I have new problems to deal with, and I think the newest one's about trying to, if you are serving a drink, that you also have to serve food, is going to be really, really difficult for people. And we know what they're getting at. They're trying to keep people from congregating and hanging around a bar, as they are in New York City and maybe in more urban areas, but are not really doing here. So hopefully we will continue to be able to keep our numbers down and do all of that. But other than that, I'm just really glad to be able to connect with you and continue to work with you and have you. I know I have just 5.5 months left, but there's still a lot I want to do. I appreciate your resolution on the cell tower issue. As we are looking at this, of everyone working from home and being on the internet and doing Zoom meetings, we realize that internet service is not just something nice to have, it is a necessity. And we have to get it throughout the entire North Country. Everyone has to have it. It has to be like electricity. And it actually, I think, is going to help our future, because what we need the most, especially in the northern part of Warren County and the district, is more year-round residents, more families filling our schools, more people building houses, more people paying taxes, more people growing with us and contributing to the community and to the job markets. But now that people can work from home, why wouldn't you rather live up here than live in an urban city that you could go and show up once a month and yet do your work and have your job and have your family experience life in the North Country? So I'm really pushing and hoping that in the next few months we get to it. The fiber tax on DOT is something that needs to be changed. We're talking to internet providers and all that we're saying, you know, even if we get a grant, we're going to spend most of the grant paying for the DOT tax. And that tax is something that goes on year after year. So we've written letters to the governor. We have really worked hard to try to get a voice of reason to see that we're not going to be able to expand our internet service and cell towers to, you can't have cell towers unless you have fiber. Unless we can really get this taken care of and get everybody on the same plate that's trying to improve internet and cell service. And for our cell towers, I don't mind if they're fake trees. You can do them cheaper than you could in the beginning when they were designing trees. But they have to be taller than the trees around them. That's all we're asking for. And, you know, we even see your cell service isn't quite as good right now because we do have tourists and we do want tourists, but the cell towers get to capacity faster than they do in the off season. So any questions, I'd be glad to answer, but I just want to stay in touch, and I'm going to be active until December 31st and continue to try to get these issues and get these things accomplished.
Okay, yes, Supervisor Bramer does have a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Senator Little, for popping in to meet with us. I'm glad to hear you talking about advocacy about getting rid of the DOT fee on broadband. I totally agree. So maybe that's something that the county can move forward with a resolution on that issue.
That'd be great.
And, yeah. The other thing I'm glad to hear you talk about is adding year-round residents to our area. Absolutely, we have a lot to offer, and if people can work from home and do, you know, entrepreneurial type jobs from our area, I'm certainly would welcome that. And this week I was part of the Common Ground, Adirondack Common Ground Alliance, where we talked a lot about diversity and making sure that the Adirondacks are more welcoming and inclusive to people coming from outside the area to live here, to settle here. And I'm wondering if there are any statewide initiatives that you've heard to help with that kind of issue, or at least for our area. I know that they have been dealing with this up in Saranac Lake with the racial injustices to the Adirondack Diversity Initiative Director. I'm wondering if you're working on anything.
Right. Well, there is the $250,000 funding that comes through the Environmental Fund Act, the Environmental Protection Fund.
Right.
And this is the second year of that funding. And I did talk to Nikki. I did apologize to her for all of us that this is not who we are, and that was so unfortunate to have that happen. And you know, I think that this is definitely something And she is doing this for the entire North Country, for the entire Adirondacks. It's not just for the Saranac Lake area. And, you know, in all reality, that area is a little off the beaten path, not as much as we are. I think we get more diversity coming up from downstate and from other areas, other states. We are missing the Canadian tourists this summer. Hopefully that will change soon, but that has a huge impact on the northern part of my district. There's so many people, yeah, for work, you can go back and forth, but people shop in the Plattsburgh area, they visit Lake Placid, they hike in the Adirondacks, and they're not able to come. So that's something we've got to watch and make sure that gets corrected. But yes, I think that this funding will continue, and I think we will broaden and certainly work with Nikki and make her feel more welcome, but also get a little further ahead in where we are.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, does anyone else have a question for the senator? Yes, Supervisor Hogan.
Our newest APA person. Thank you. I'm so glad Andrea is on the APA now. And it's always important that Warren County has that representative that really knows what's going on in Warren County. And as a supervisor, you do.
Thank you, Senator. I have a quick question. Today, we're going to be voting to back up a financial commitment as a member item from a year or two ago for the cell tower or the communications tower in Stony Creek. I'm happy to do it. I think it's important, but can you speak to when this funding is going to be released?
I probably can't give you an answer. We have all of those grants were given when we were in the majority, and we've been told that they will be honored. When, we have not been told, but I have had some coming through. I've had some coming through lately. Right now, there's nothing coming through because of the COVID. If you've noticed, I don't believe we're even going to have that regional economic development money. $750 million is in the budget, but the way things are going and the expenses, and depending on how much money we get from the feds, I'm not sure that that will even happen this year, nor the $100 million for the city village thing that Glens Falls and Plattsburgh and Saranac Lake each had gotten. I don't think that'll happen this year either. So on the funding, we continue. Sharon in my office works on this all the time. I call, she calls. We work with the comptroller's office and or with DASNY, and we're just trying. I'm not sure. I have a few grants that people never send in their paperwork, and I will have a hard time getting those, but you're not one of them. So, but it's going to be difficult.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else with a question? I don't see any other questions.
I have to say, though, Frank, I have to say, just women asking women, huh? So when I was on the board, when I first went on your board, Fran Walter was the only other woman.
Yeah.
And then she retired. And then from then on, I had a couple terms where I was 1 out of 20. So it's nice.
Yeah, it is very good.
Leaps and bounds. That whole scenario has changed. We're good. We have great women candidates and great women legislators, and I'm glad to work with all of you as well as all you guys too. So
thank you for paving the way, Senator.
no,
we still have more work to do.
Yeah, we do, but we're doing it. It's getting there. Yeah. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Senator, I served on the board with Fran Walter. She was an excellent supervisor from the town of Queensberry. We became good friends, even though at that point in my life I was a Democrat.
That's still good, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was a great person.
She was, and she really did pave the way. She was a town supervisor, as one of the only female town supervisors. You know, I was just a legislative supervisor, but she did a great job with the town of Queensberry, worked hard. I was chairman of her recreation commission, so I worked with her through those years.
She was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't mess with her.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us, and good luck in all your endeavors.
Go back to trying to solve some of these issues. Oh, my golly. It's a crazy time. Good luck to everybody. Stay well, stay safe. And
Thank you,
wear a
Senator.
mask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Let's see, the next committee report would be Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you, Frank. The occupancy tax meeting was July 15th. We have 3 resolutions coming out of that meeting. The first resolution is a request to waive the rules. The meeting was on Wednesday. The deadline for resolutions was Tuesday, the day before. So we need to waive the rules. The 2 resolutions that follow that are payments on contracts to the Civic Center and to the CVB. And both of them voluntarily reduced their OCTAX requests in lieu of the COVID epidemic and reduced them significantly. So we were very pleased with that, and they verified that they could do that and survive without any significant damage, and we appreciate that, and we'd like to get them paid. So if we could pass these 3 resolutions, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I turn it over to Joanne, I'm going to let her give you information about tourism. I do have a couple of comments, but I think I'm going to hold them to the privilege of the floor.
Good morning, thank you. Last month I was here to update the committee on our spending plan for the rest of the year. Certainly needing to curtail spending a little bit. So we made some decisions to move forward, and I'd like to report now on the progress of some of those campaigns. So the media buy, we decided to spend just over $500,000 through the remainder of the year. Part 1 of that was a pre-4th of July spending, so it was a 3-week campaign. 2/3 of that was a digital spend, and another 1/3 was broadcast television with our agency had workshop. And over the course of the campaign, there were 12 million impressions over all of the tactics, which were native advertising on digital, our video, connected television, Google ads, retargeting ads, and promoting some of our blogs. And then within the department, we also did some in-house social media, and that all performed incredibly well. So now that part 1 is done, we're moving into phase 2 of that. It began on July 8th and will continue for 5 weeks through early August. So far, we've got 5 million impressions across all of our campaigns. $150,000 is being spent by that workshop, and another $35,000 within the department. I will note that we coordinated with the Economic Recovery Group, understanding the difficulty within the workforce, and local businesses having a hard time filling positions. So there was a campaign that was called LakeGeorgesHiring.com. There's a website. We put some dollars behind that. We worked with the local businesses and chambers and with Liza at Employment and Training to get the word out that there are jobs in Warren County, all of Warren County. So any businesses in the county that have hospitality related job opening could list that job opening on the site. The promotion that we did on social media was to push people to that LakeGeorgesHiring.com, and then they could click on the individual jobs if they were interested in them. There was a lot of engagement on the ad. I think some of the jobs that were available, would have been ordinarily filled by the J1 students. So cleaning rooms once a week or washing dishes, some of those jobs may not have filled, but many did. So that was some money that we did use from that pot of spending that we'll have to take into consideration as we move forward. We will move ahead with fall and winter spending, and we need to take that into consideration. We don't have any dollars set aside for winter at this time, but hopefully collections are coming in, and we can take a closer look at my budget and where can we shift things around perhaps to spend some money for winter. So to that end, all of our advertising pushes people to our website, and our analytics for that specific period of time when we began the pre-4th of July to date to now, our user sessions and have been up 83%, which is just through the roof. Keep in mind, in a typical year, we would spread the spending plan out over a longer range. So this was a really specified 3-week period of time, but to have the users in the sessions increase by that much, we were pleased with that. And the users from New York City in particular and the state of New Jersey have increased dramatically. I would also note that our organic social media, so that's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, with no spending behind it, the engagement on that has also just skyrocketed. So that speaks to the people in the department that are writing the content and posting the stories and engaging and everything that goes along with that. There's a lot of time involved, but there's no spending of actual dollars behind that, but the staff is really on top of that, all the time. So that is another benefit to, the good staff that we have in the department. One of the metrics that we can measure is the STR reporting, the Smith trend. So we had a goal with this economic recovery group that we would, if we could keep the demand and the tax collections and the revenue not below 50% below last year, then that would be a good goal considering everything that's going on. So at this point in time, year to date, the demand is down 38%. And the revenue is down about 44%, excuse me. So we are below the 50. Not that we can't do better on that. I just received, or I should receive the June report today, so then I'll have a little bit more up-to-date statistics on that. I do have a weekly report that shows me 4th of July this year to last year, and really we're only down about 10% for just that 4th of July three-day period of time. So all things considered, that's not bad. A couple of other quick feedback, and again, this is some of the work that we're doing with the Economic Recovery Group. We're working with the businesses, the chambers of commerce, our department, a couple of chambers, and Max Marketing sent out another survey. We did one at the beginning of the pandemic period, and then we've done another one recently, 5,000 respondents. And of those, 60% of those people want to travel or plan to travel in August and September. So that bodes well for us moving through the remainder of the summer. And we do usually have a pretty strong fall. So September and October usually fare well for us. Most of those people plan to stay overnight. 71% rated beaches as incredibly important. And it has been a super hot summer, so that is no surprise. 27% are looking for uncrowded destinations. So come on up to Lake George and then explore the rest of our beautiful county, and we have uncrowded destinations for you. The zip codes that are coming in from that survey, the markets that we're in: Westchester, Orange County, Dutchess County, Long Island, some of Massachusetts, and also some central New York. I do have some feedback from our local hotel properties. June specifically was good, but the rates were down a little bit. As we move into July and August, it looks like the properties that are on the water are doing quite well. Some of them have 90 to 100% occupancy, but properties that could be just across the street are not doing that well. So we need to, again, enlarge those circles of guests from the lake and further out across the street and out into the other communities. The town and village of Lake George has a little bit lower demand, 15 to 30%. Outside the village, that's where we're seeing a more considerable drop of 45 to 60%. And then the rates on the lake can be a little bit higher, but rates across the street or in outlying communities, the rates are lower in order to get some of that occupancy in. Outdoor recreation industry seems to be doing incredibly well. Everyone wants to be outdoors, and they're recreationalists. They're not hardcore cyclists or hikers necessarily. Some certainly are, but recreational cycling, hiking, natural stone bridge and caves, super busy, boat charters, bicycle rentals. So that whole outdoor industry seems to be faring well. And as noted again, Congresswoman Stefanik is well aware that incentive with unemployment is hurting our local businesses. So there are a few weeks left in this part 2 to the campaign. Generally, I think we're doing fairly well, and I think we need to remember that one of our large attractors, which is the Great Escape, is not even open yet. So to look forward to the possibility of that happening, phase 4, ABCD, where does that fall into the opening schedule? I think that will affect us greatly. And all of our events have been canceled, American specifically. So for us to be holding our own at this point in time without some of those major attractors, I think we've all worked well to make this happen, all of our businesses, chambers, and towns. So thank you so much. I will note that the department did order some face masks that are a little bit comfortable. Tammy's wearing one today. We've distributed them to some of our businesses. We don't have one for all of the guests, but we try to promote it as for you and your staff at your business. So they're almost gone, and I've asked Lisa to take a look at our budget and see if we can order a few more. If any supervisors are interested in those, let me know. And in cooperation with the CDB and their community funding part of their program, the safety signs that have been printed before, we ran out of quickly. There are more. If any of the towns would like them, down to the department, if any supervisors are online and you would like them, we will try to get them out to your town by the weekend.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate that. That's all the report.
That's all. Yeah, thank you very much. Supervisor Strahl.
No report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report for today.
Thank you. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope everyone can hear me well. The Economic Growth and Development, Higher Education, Planning, and Workforce Committee met 2 separate times this past month. Before you were 3 resolutions, 232. That has to do with an affordable housing study in cooperation with the EDC and LDC. Can you hear me? Please speak up. Okay. Do I need to rewind, or am I okay? So just quickly, there's one resolution 232 before you. That's in cooperation with the EDC and the LDC for an affordable housing study. 253 and 54 are associated with the summer youth employment program that Liza is running. In addition to that, the Economic Recovery Task Force has met every week since its ascension a couple of months ago. Joanne did a nice job in terms of identifying some of the things we're working on. Joanne's participated actively with that. The focus has gone slightly away from how do we get open, which was our first focus, to now how do we stay open and how do we support our local businesses in trying to recover with the restrictions that are placed upon them. So we're fortunate to have Administrator Moore, who is, I believe, a force to contend with in the control room. So we're happy to have him. But we're also dealing with a hiring issue in Lake George. And it's not just Lake George. Lake George has gotten our focus, but it's across the board with even some of our manufacturing facilities also, that people are not incented to go back to work. And part of our communication efforts have been speaking with Congresswoman Stefanik and our federal senators Senator Schumer's office and Senator Kilbrand's office about our issue and our problem with the issue of trying to get people back to work. And the $600 federal stipend has been a detriment to us. Now, some of the thoughts are is that it's going to end at the end of July. We're not necessarily sure that's going to happen. So as we heard this morning from our Congresswoman, there's negotiations in process. Hopefully there'll be some continuation of that because there's regions of the country that still need that type of support. But there'll be some also side benefit of the negotiations that will help us in terms of providing some incentives for people to return to work and help us with our local economy. Also with that, we've talked about the foreign workers, the J1s and the H2s. And we've dealt with our federal representatives to explain how significant that issue has been for us locally because it's a big part of our local workforce. And a big part of it is our tourism industry is only 12 weeks long. So we have to hit this and hit it strong. And the economic impact of us not having those are significant. It doesn't go beyond September, October, but it is our summer season that we need support with. Moving forward, I'd just like to also expand upon our chairman's comments about not wanting to slip backwards. I agree the masks are not comfortable. I've done the backwards walk to my car numerous times when I've gotten out of the car, getting ready to go into a store, get to the door and go, forgot my mask, and I have to walk back. It's important for us because the control rooms are there for a reason, to manage the virus, manage people getting sick. We don't want to have a spike that sends us backwards. We're all enjoying the fact that restaurants are open. There's all these other facilities that are open that we can take advantage of. But if we're not careful, we could lose some of those privileges. So I just want to kind of make that point as strongly as I can to our community, that please deal with the inconvenience. Please support us staying open. Wear a mask. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have for this morning.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm being told that the Senator Little, is still with us and has a comment.
That issue is a huge issue, the extra $600 a week. And there is the guidance that came out on that said that there are 3 reasons a person can say that they cannot come back to work and continue to get unemployment. And the first one is that they themselves have a compromising health condition. Secondly, that someone that they live with has a compromising health condition, be it a parent, a child, or a spouse, or whatever. And the third reason is that the workplace is not compliant with the safety issues, that they see 3 grocery stores who are doing certain things and the one they're supposed to go back to work to or office is not doing those things. Otherwise, they cannot just say, I'm afraid to come back to work that I might catch COVID-19. So, and at that case, you can call unemployment and have their unemployment ended, but and deny them coming back to work. But it doesn't really solve the problem, but I hope it scares some people into coming back to work.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, to expand on the Senator's comments, thank you, Senator Little. We definitely appreciate your help and support in this. There's anecdotal evidence that our Lake George's hiring scheme has drawn a lot of attention from the net, not only for us locally, but actually further down by the Albany area, if I'm not mistaken, Joanne. People are going for interviews, people are accepting jobs and not showing up. So we don't know what the issue is, but it is a problem. Senator, you probably heard from Michael Biddle from the Adirondack Regional Chamber just yesterday on our task force call. He did mention that the onus right now for reporting violations of the unemployment is really on businesses. Businesses have to report to the Department of Labor that someone is not following the rules. His suggestion was that we need to put it back, the onus has to be back on the individual, not necessarily the business. And it's really difficult for our businesses here locally right now because a lot of the owners of our hospitalities are not having the people that clean the rooms and having to do it themselves. So I thought moving forward, if there are negotiations and discussions, we understand that the State Department of Labor is still overwhelmed. They're still under mandatory overtime to try to deal with these issues. But whatever we can do, it would be great help.
No, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did not have any support services meetings this month, so I have nothing to report there. But I do, after listening to Mike, thank you, Supervisor Weil, for that update. But I just wanted to put out a reminder. I believe I brought this up quite a few months ago, and I was kind of abruptly shut down there talking about this because I knew it was going to be a problem coming down the road. So, Senator Little, thank you for being on top. I've been with Liza, and like I said, I really think the extra unemployment needs to end immediately for those. And then I don't know if you were in earlier, Senator Little, for the talk I had with the Congresswoman Stefanik, but is really what should have happened was the federal government should have made up the difference of what New York wasn't going to pay. So if you were making $500 a week and New York State was only going to pay $325, the government should have came in and picked up the difference to make it 500, not come out with where you have people making, twice as much as they were making before they got unemployment. So I knew this was going to be an issue coming in, and I want to thank you all for, being on it. But I wish that we had really, I was with Liza on this earlier, and we were really trying to hammer this down a couple months ago, but now I see that's a problem. That's all I want to say, and thank you all for listening to me again.
Thank you. Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 230 is in front of you. That resolution addresses amending an agreement with the supervising attorney for assigned counsel office, and we added a not to exceed amount. Those are all grant dollars. I wanted to thank Chairman Leggett for chairing criminal justice on June 22nd. Very much appreciate that. Also, on 6/26, there was a Resilient County call with NACO that was about community resilience and race equality. And then on July 7th, there was a Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee call, and that dealt quite a bit with the Justice Act, and that is new. I sent out information to all of you via email that will give that full update, so I don't take time today to read all of that, but certainly that act is important and is in front of our federal representatives. Lastly, I don't know what will continue to happen with NACO and those two committees. Those terms are up, so this month leading into August, we'll find out if I'll continue to sit on the committee to represent Orange County or not. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Facilities met. We've got 3 resolutions on your docket, 227, 228, 229. They're fairly mundane. There's not a lot of radical issues with each one of them, but I'm going to refer to Kevin Hajos right now. I believe he's on the line. And Kevin, would you like to add anything with those 3 resolutions authorizing contracts?
Yeah, as Doug said, there's not much to them. The first 2 are awarding the bid and authorizer agreement for the T-hanger projects. The first is for the general construction for the GC with Plain Construction. And then the second one is with J. McBain for the electrical work. The last one is the awarding a contract for the plumbing services associated with the snow removal equipment building. Now, as you're all aware, the last bid that we put out for the snow removal equipment building, we didn't have anybody submit for the plumbing bid, so we put it back out to bid again.
Thank you, Kevin. One final comment before I turn it over to my colleague. The unemployment, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the fact of the matter is it never made sense from day one. I think we all agree to that. When you can make more on unemployment than you can working was absolutely ludicrous. It's just another example of how government is kind of screwed up. You can sit home and make more money than you ever were before, and then decide not to come back. There are alternatives, and obviously right now the onus is on the individual companies to report an individual to the Department of Labor if they decide not to come back off of employment. But that also creates issues, obviously, because what if that's a good employee, and for right now they're still a little squeamish. That employer doesn't want to lose that employee down the road, so they handle them with kid gloves and probably don't even turn in the employee. So I like the fact that maybe the onus should be on the employee themselves, along with maybe a backup from the employer. But yeah, we're all in agreement. This makes no sense. Making more money for being off work than actually working. It's ludicrous. But I'm going to now turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and the next supervisor.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Shepler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we do not have a committee report.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next we have a report with the County Administrator, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It feels good to be back in the boardroom. We have employee anniversaries to report this morning. Number one, with 25 years, is our excellent real property tax director, Lexi DeLurie. With 20 years, Courtney House in the Sheriff's Department. I also want to announce a birthday tomorrow of my deputy, Tammy DiLorenzo, who's turning 25, or at least you would think that based on her energy and her ability to get a lot of work done. She's been phenomenal for me to have during these 4 or 5 months. How long has it been? 4 months that we've been dealing with everything. She's indispensable, and I thank her so much for everything she does. We have a busy day down in Health Services this morning. That's because of a positive case that came back in a different county towards the end of the day yesterday. A young lady who plays on a club lacrosse team. The public health department in that other county, based on interviews with her, identified where she contracted the coronavirus from, determined that she was contagious when she played in a series of, I don't know if it was a tournament or if it was those scrimmages. But those games occurred on Sunday, July 12th. This particular player, I understand, is very good and played on several different teams. So there's some significant potential exposures. We've identified the coach. I should back up. The coach has worked with Dr. Borges and was very cooperative in providing a list of all of the players on these teams that may have been exposed. It's our understanding that these are all young people that may have been just sleepovers. There's a significant potential exposure here. But the good news is the professionals are working on it. We know all the names of the individuals who played on these teams who live in Warren County. We're going to get them all tested. We're also interviewing all of them as we speak to determine their contacts, and all of their contacts are going to be quarantined. It's a lot of work, but it's work worth doing, and it's work that our health services department does a great job doing. They've written a book on this stuff as far as I'm concerned. Been very, very impressed, not just with their acumen in doing this, but with their willingness to do it around the clock. It's got to be 1,000 people have Janelle Jones's personal cell phone number and call her on it. So she's gotten to know a lot of people and make a lot of friends. I thank them as the chairman did. We can't thank them enough. There's also been there's been a lot of questions that I've certainly gotten about what the rules are for weddings. It's been a significant enough concern to people that I think it merits bringing it up during this report. Weddings right now are subject to the 50-person non-essential gathering limit. Also, there are guidelines out for church services that can apply to the ceremony portion. When it comes to the reception, the State Liquor Authority has a Q&A document online. I can send you all these links if you want them. but the Q&A document says no dancing and no stand-up cocktail hour. Now, you know, it seems a little difficult to enforce, but that's what the state is saying the rules are. Couples are understandably upset about that and taking out frustrations on venues that host these. I think it's important to remember that the venues are trying to protect their businesses here. It's not too long ago that I got married. I understand where the couples are coming from, but getting married in a pandemic year is not a normal experience. And even if we didn't have these pause rules, you're still going to go to a wedding. You're going to have guests that don't want to come because they're afraid of getting sick, and you're going to have the possibility, at least for people to leave your wedding and have the coronavirus. So by definition, it's not a normal time to have a wedding. There shouldn't be expectations that if you do have a wedding right now that it's going to be normal. And those are the rules at this point, and I will continue to keep people updated on whether those rules change. And that's my report.
Thank you. County Attorney.
I have no report.
Okay, thank you very much.
Frank.
Yes. Supervisor.
Ask Ryan a question. Ryan, I know you were having difficulty with a couple that were in a non-travel state, came and were refusing to do the quarantine. Did you get that rectified?
That doesn't ring a bell to me, Dennis. I don't know of anybody that refused to quarantine. Maybe I'm recalling it wrong.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk for the reading of communications.
We have the reports for the Warren County Probation Department, reports of criminal and family workloads for the months of February through May 2020. We have Town of Queensberry Resolution number 232 of 2020, setting a public hearing on the proposed local law to reenact and reestablish temporary moratorium on installation of ground-mounted solar energy systems. And Town of Queensberry Resolution number 214 of 2020, which is setting a public hearing on a proposed local law to amend Chapter 179 zoning of Queensberry Town Code to amend permitted uses in commercial light industrial zoning district. And we have Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. 2019 regular benefit distribution payment number 1 in the amount of $2,101.
Okay, thank you. Before the reading of resolutions, I would at this time ask the board respectfully to enter into an executive session to discuss a personnel issue, I guess I would say. I do, or we do.
I make a motion.
Moved by Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Garrity.
Thank you. I'm leaving. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
Yeah. Hey, Frank.
We're good to go.
Dennis.
Yep.
After an extended executive session, no action has been taken. The next item that we have is reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 225 through 252, as well as one certificate of appointment, were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the Warren County website on July 19th. Resolution numbers 253 through 255 were produced after mailing pursuant to action taken at committee meetings held on July 13th. Those were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the county website on July 14th. As the distribution deadline specified in the rules of the board was met, a motion and a simple majority vote will be required to bring resolutions 253 through 255 to the floor.
Make that motion, John Strauss.
Moved by Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Garrity. That's on the 255.
That's 253 through 255.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone opposed?
Okay. 2 resolutions were produced pursuant to action taken at the July 15th OPTEX committee meeting. Those are labeled as resolution numbers 257 and 259. These were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the county website on July 16th. Separate motions to waive the rules of the board to bring each of these resolutions to the floor will be required as the distribution deadline was not met. The first motion will be to waive the rules of the board to bring 257 to the floor.
Frank.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Frazier to waive the rules.
Frank, I have a question.
On waiving the rules?
Frank?
Do you have a question on waiving the rules? Oh?
Yeah, she got the numbers wrong in the resolutions. She has the wrong numbers on the resolutions, 257 and 258.
No, it's
257, 259.
We're on resolution 256 to waive the rules. That's where we're at. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Now, do we have a motion to introduce resolution 257? I'll make that motion. Motion made by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. I'll ask again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
If the resolutions waiving the rules of the board are 256 and 258, the OPTEX resolutions themselves are 257 and 259.
Thank you.
There is one floor resolution. This was distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors on July 14th. It met the deadline for distribution. In order to entertain this item, a motion and a simple majority vote is needed to bring it to the floor.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Before we go there, do we need to do 258 and 59, or do we go?
No, those are.
Okay. On the floor resolution introduced by Supervisor Beatty
I'll second that.
and seconded by Supervisor Seaver. And this is to waive the rules.
Ask for a roll call.
You don't,
No.
This is to waive the
We only
rules.
need a majority. Just to put it, yeah, to add it to the agenda. Yeah, the rules don't need to be waived because it's Tuesday.
It's a simple majority.
All right. So your motion was to bring it to the floor then, correct?
Right. Yes. Simple.
You asked Supervisor Garrity asked for a roll call vote. Correct.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
What's the resolution?
Go ahead.
We're voting on a motion to bring a floor resolution to the floor.
What's the floor resolution?
The floor resolution is appointing a member of the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Garrity?
No.
Mr. Conover?
No.
Mr. Leggett? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Ms. Bristol?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
No.
Mr. Simpson?
No.
Ms. Hogan?
Who's
Ms. Hogan?
This is to bring it to the floor, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
No.
Mr. Molino?
No.
Mr. Stroud?
No.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Definitely yes.
Chairman Thomas?
No.
That motion has 562 votes in favor, so it does make it to the floor. It will be resolution number 260.
Are there any other resolutions anyone would like to put forward at this time? Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to reiterate, I'd like to withdraw resolution 235. Is this the time to do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Make
you.
a motion.
We need a motion. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Mr. Driscoll made the motion. I have Mr. Wilder for the second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the withdrawal of 235. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 235 is withdrawn. Yes.
For the contract, this motion is not needed.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Leggett to withdraw 237, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion about that? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed. One is opposed. Supervisor Molino. 237 is withdrawn. Anyways, is there any resolution coming from the Supervisor Strong? Yes.
Yes, could I have a roll call on resolution 252 because I'm on the SUNY Adirondack Board of Trustees. We'll have to recuse myself on that vote.
That's a roll call on resolution 252. Any other roll calls?
I don't have a roll call request. Jack Diamond asked that I comment on 251. That's what the handout is in reference to. He wanted to put that out there as a third option. But he did not request a separate roll call vote.
Chairman, discussion?
Yes, discussion on resolutions.
For resolution 1?
Yes.
That involves,
that's resolution 260.
260. That's the appointment of D. Travis Whitehead to the IDA. As you know, most people know, I do serve on the IDA. I've served with Travis Whitehead. It's somewhat controversial because Travis happens to be a bit of a controversial kind of guy. He does add significant value. He's very intelligent. He does tend to rub people wrong sometimes because he's often strong-willed and not quite open. But he does add value, and I would support serving with Travis. Again, we do need more help on that board. We just lost a deal with the plastics company coming into Washington County. And the more hands on deck to help move this organization forward, the better. Thank you.
Yes, I was informed by the county attorney that while I can't debate, I can ask you a question. And my question that I put before you is that how many harassment complaints do Warren County employees have to officially file before it becomes an issue with this board, before this board doesn't condone harassment? Is it, how many complaints is it? I'd like to know what the number is. I'd like somebody to tell me that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I did anything like that. I apologize.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the resolution and the individual in the resolution. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to talk, I think, about any I mean, he's obviously a potential candidate for an appointment, a previous candidate for, or previous appointment. I think it's highly unprofessional to discuss any type of, I have no idea what you're talking about, but any type of harassment complaints in an open session. But furthermore, to even bring up harassment complaints, I would very much like to know then if this was a concern, if in fact it's true. I have no idea, but why wasn't it brought up at personnel? And how come this is the first, if we're going to have a monthly meeting and talk about harassment complaint, I'm the first one that wants to know about that. Absolutely, we should always then be talking about this, but to my knowledge, when do we do that? When do we talk about harassment complaints of individuals, not only in open session, but before with our board?
I asked the question, that's all.
There's no answer.
Yes.
I would make a motion to go. I would make a motion to go into executive session and discuss it. The desire of the board. I mean, if there are in fact complaints to discuss.
Okay. Motion for executive session. Is there a second?
No way.
I see a second. Edna?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier? Call the question. All in favor of an executive session?
Roll call vote.
Okay, roll call is fine.
I mean, what are we going to executive session to discuss?
Complaints.
Complaints against you or against a board member or against an employee? This is so convoluted.
I don't think so.
Well, you got to be a little clearer, Mr. Chairman, because.
Okay, well, then we're going into executive session to discuss harassment complaints against a particular individual that the board is seeking to appoint to the IDA board.
And is that specific person going to be allowed to participate in that executive session like we allowed the sheriff?
I don't understand your question.
Well, let me go slower then. Is that person going to be
roll call vote, please?
Is that person going to be allowed to participate in the executive session?
No, I don't believe he is.
So in other words, we're going to have an executive session on something on hearsay.
No, the board wants information, and this is not hearsay.
Well, and you're not going to allow the person that you say that is harassing to be.
Roll call vote.
Wow, Mr. Chairman, you're going over some bounds here that are scary.
Now.
Point of order.
The roll call to go into executive session.
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Unmute.
Mr. Conover?
Unmute.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
I'm going to vote no, since all of a sudden this becomes an issue, and the first time I've heard of it, so I'm voting no.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
No.
Ms. Seaver?
I don't think we should be talking about any personnel issues in open session. So yeah, excuse me, Mike. I get a second.
Hey.
Mr. Biggie?
Are you kidding?
Definitely no.
And Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
What a joke.
That motion passes with 715 votes in favor. That's executive session.
Yeah, just a moment.
Frank,
Please.
Disconnect.
We're good.
We're good. We are out of executive session. No action was taken in executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I would request a roll call vote on resolution 260.
Okay, roll call on 260.
What is that? What is the roll call? And what is the issue?
260, I want a roll call vote on resolution 260.
Right. We're still on discussion of resolution.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor Conover.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to, at this time, request of the board a waiving of the rules so that we might entertain a resolution regarding enforcement of our nepotism local law. And I have a draft of it if you'd like me to read it so that people know what they're voting on. We will need a waiving of the rules, I believe. I don't know how you want to handle this, whether you want the waiving of the rules first and then you want the resolution, or.
We have a motion to waive the rules, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Call the question on waiving the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the rules are waived. You have a resolution you would like to introduce.
I do. I may need Amanda, or I may need Mary to fill in a couple of blanks, but the resolution would go something like this. Whereas it has been determined by our outside counsel that action taken by the County Sheriff LaFar is in violation of local law. I forget the number on the nepotism. What was that?
Local law number 4 of 2016.
Okay, that'll be inserted. And whereas it is the intent of the Board of Supervisors.
6 of 2014. Sorry.
And whereas it is the intent of the Board of Supervisors to require compliance with its local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Warren County Board of Supervisors directs County Sheriff LaFar and all county employees and departments to cease and desist in this appointment in violation of our local law. Be it further resolved that the board instructs the county attorney and such other outside attorney as may be necessary to take such actions as necessary to enforce this local law and to ensure compliance. And I believe, I'm sorry, to take such actions as necessary, including bringing an article. Give me the number again.
78.
I'm sorry.
78. Article
78 action to ensure compliance with the local law. I apologize, that was done on the quick, so. But I think a directive should go out in advance of taking the action. We might find that that is sufficient.
Okay, motion made to bring that resolution forward, or a resolution similar to that anyhow. Yes, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any further discussion?
Is this to bring it to the floor or the actual vote? I'm sorry, Chairman, excuse me.
This is the motion to bring it to the floor. To bring the introduce the resolution. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay, that will be resolution 262.
Yes, 261 will be the waiving of the rules. 262 will be the resolution on the enforcement of the.
Further discussion on the resolution. Public comment on resolutions. Does anybody know if
Hello, Chairman Thomas. There's no public comment on the resolution per se right now.
Okay. I guess the next step is vote on resolutions.
Resolution 225, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson? You lost him? Okay. Mr. Merlino?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty? Mr. Beatty gave the thumbs up. Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 226, amending Warren County budget for 2020. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty? Mr. Beatty's giving the thumbs up. Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 245, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2020. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 249, increasing capital project H381 South Johnsburg Road over Mill Creek Bridge replacement. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 250, authorizing appropriation of fees from deferred revenue Gaslight Village parking fees to the Charles Wood budget and authorizing reimbursement to the Village of Lake George. Mr. Garrity?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 252, approving tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2021 for Adirondack Community College and providing for public hearing. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Because.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
I have a clarification question. Does this tentative budget on 252 call for the 2% increase in funding from Warren County?
Yes.
Then it's a definite no. We're asking every other department to cut back, and we don't have the funds. So I don't know how we can pay more to one place and everybody else got to go last. So definitely not.
Chairman Thomas,
Yes.
resolution passes. Resolution 260, appointing member of the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency.
Can I ask a question? I'm so sorry, Amanda. Just as a point of order, if I wanted to make a motion to table this resolution 260, is that still possible or it has to be done previously?
I don't know.
Isn't it always in order? I think the motion table is always in order.
I'd like to make a motion to table 260.
I'll second that.
Motion to table.
I'll second that.
I heard you. Seconded by Supervisor Beatty.
Thanks for acknowledging me, Chairman.
Call the question. All in favor of tabling 260?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Have the vote. I think I'm opposed. Get it on the lips. Okay, motion I believe is tabled, right?
Yes.
Motion is tabled. Okay, collective on the remaining resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They're included in there. Unless you want to ask for a roll call.
Right. I can't hear what you're saying.
Table.
260 was tabled.
And so 262 is in the collective, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
262. Right. Before we move on to public comment, privilege of the floor, at this time, I do have a certificate of appreciation that I would like to present. Presenting this to Mr. Ken Tingley, and on behalf of the Warren County Supervisors, in recognition of the many stories and reportings he has written on Warren County and its communities during his 32 years of employment with the Post Star. Signed by myself on July 17th, 2020. Privilege of the floor. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Chairman Thomas. We do have public. I see Supervisor Conover raising his hand. Did he want to jump in here? And
Not before. I'll follow. I'll follow you, Don.
Okay, well, we had a little technical issue with the public comments. Some of them seem to have disappeared from the chat window. I'm not sure if it was because of the length of the meeting or what, at least on my window here. But we did have a comment from Kathy Dede of the Chronicle earlier, in which she recounted that the Chronicle does highlight Cornell Cooperative Extension events in their calendar. Gina Mintzer did report that the Lake George Chamber has heard from some business owners that some of them are reluctant to report employees who are not coming back to work for the apparent unemployment fraud because of possible retaliation. Then we have some comments from Travis Whitehead, in which he reported that a personnel issue, I guess, is not an allowed reason for executive session. He also has a question here. How many harassment complaints does it take to get rid of the Board of Supervisors chairman? Since it takes no proof or judgment to file a complaint, I think that can be arranged. And he also pointed out it takes no evidence to file a harassment complaint. That is the extent of what we have right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lehman. Privilege of the floor. And I believe Mr. Conover is up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say relative to Resolution 253 was dealt with in the collective. I just want to make sure on that.
250.
The resolution regarding, I just want to make sure that that was part of the collective. The resolution that I introduced.
No, that was, it
262.
was 262, and yes.
I'm showing 252 as SUNY Adirondack.
Okay. We can review all of them if you want.
No. I just want to make sure that there's a correct number on my resolution, on the resolution. What's that?
62. The resolution you introduced is 262, and it was taken care of in the collective vote.
Okay, so, and let me just say that it's, I know it's my sincere hope, and I know it's the sincere hope of the board that a formal resolution of direction from this board will be sufficient regarding this matter. And I believe that is the sincere wish of the board as well.
Yes, I agree. I believe so. Yes, Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Don. I just got a couple of things. It's been a rough 3-4 weeks in Lake Luzerne, and I really want to thank Police Stefanik for getting back to me on a call that I made to her on a problem. And this has nothing to do with what we discussed, but I really want to thank the sheriff immensely. I had a problem in Lake Luzerne with a threat. I called the sheriff on a Sunday. He got to the person that was upset on an Airbnb matter, and the person got back to me, was happy that the sheriff called him. He didn't believe a sheriff would call. This was I'll take care of myself if somebody don't take care of it type of comment. So the sheriff really handled it well. And this was on my notes from before. And Mr. Moore, fabulous on your emails. You did a great job on the big box stores. I was in Walmart yesterday. Everybody had masks on, so great step forward on that. And Brian LaFleur, we always forget him. He's been working well with all the supervisors, supplying us with masks and everything that we need for our towns. And I really want to say thank you. And my business lost $20,000 this week because I would have been totally full if the track was running. So small businesses are getting hurt by this thing. A lot of us might not be around at the end of the year. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I do want to repeat a little bit what Supervisor Merlino just said about his thanks to the sheriff for all his good work. And I want to say publicly with respect to 262 that I do respect the sheriff, and he has been doing a great job. I hear really great things from constituents. And I have heard that they are concerned about him hiring his son. And I hope that he will take our resolution seriously and consider action on that before the board has to do anything formal. I wanted to put that out there. And also with respect to the issue that you brought up earlier on our appointment to the IDA, Chairman, I would urge you to please, if you have information that is important to this board and our decisions, that you would share that with all of the members of the board, especially with respect to this new one about the sheriff. Please keep us informed as to what is happening so that we know and we can make an informed decision as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an announcement, right?
Yes, any other privilege announcements? Mr. Garrity?
Yes, next Saturday, 7:25, the Warrensburg Fire Company is putting on a takeout only barbecue where you drive through and pick up a barbecue dinner for $12. It's complete salads, beans, corn, rolls, and half a chicken for $12. It'll be at the Firehouse in Warrensburg on 18 Elm Street. So we appreciate any support.
Okay. Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn. Moved by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis & Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis & Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian-American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees.
WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.